Hey everyone, welcome to Sunday Night Soul Time. It is February 21st. Can't believe it's almost getting towards the end of another month. I hope that you're doing well. So, I've got a good conversation for us tonight, and it's really about the role of the ego and soul purpose. And I chose this topic because I always am paying attention to kind of what I see going on. And this is a topic that I think came up with nearly every single client of mine, all my coaching clients this week. So clearly something needs to come out, and it's probably showing up in your life in some way, shape, or form too. That's kind of how these things tend to work whenever a theme starts to emerge. So when I talk about soul purpose, first of all, what I want to clarify, I'm not just talking about what you do for work, but whenever you step into a higher embodiment of your soul, a higher expression of your soul, which can be via work. In life, you're kind of forging a deeper connection with your higher self. Okay. So that's what we're talking about when I'm talking about soul purpose. So for some of you, it might be very literal. You might very much have just left a job and you are really trying to figure out your work soul purpose at the moment. So this might really apply to you. But what I'm about to talk about is true and holds true anytime you're forging a deeper connection with your higher self, when you're getting closer to alignment with your higher self, and being one with your higher self. Okay. And often that is through doing soul purpose work. So whenever you are in that journey and stepping closer to your higher self, which is a natural thing that happens when you step into your true soul purpose, the ego gets louder. Okay. So the ego can be kind of, quieter or complacent or, content when you are kind of, playing it safe, when you are already kind of operating from a mode of caution and survival, because that's how the ego perceives the world. That's where the ego is comfortable. But when you start stepping into connection with your higher self, with your soul purpose, which often involves, taking kind of some risk or some leaps or, exhibiting courage in some way, the ego gets very uncomfortable. It doesn't understand it. It doesn't like it. And so the ego gets a lot louder in those moments. It gets even more aggressive. And again, the ego, I know I've talked a lot about the ego on the Sunday Night Soul Times, but the ego, that kind of voice of fear in your head that presents itself as the voice of reason, that lower aspect of you that views you as a limited being, believes you are kind of separate from the universe, not of the universe. So when you get more connected to your higher self, well, it's like it's like a kind of seesaw or even a pendulum. The ego grows and gets louder. It gets very uncomfortable. So when you are, on a soul purpose journey or on a higher self journey, expect it. Expect that the ego is going to get louder. And in these moments, which can be really challenging, it can feel like a battle at times. You might be trying to really, make a change in your life, a change that's going to support you, a kind of greater state of well-being and happiness. And whenever you're doing anything that supports a greater sense of well-being and happiness, you're taking steps more closely to being in alignment with your higher self. Again, the ego just gets more aggressive. So in these moments, it can feel very overwhelming. You can feel a lot of conflict because that voice is getting so much louder. And it sounds very convincing. And the key in these moments is really to observe the ego. Yes, it's to do that. But more than anything, what you really want to just focus on is not taking the action that's in alignment with the ego. Okay? Because it's in these moments when it gets that loud and it gets that convincing, sometimes it can be hard to just kind of detach and be the observer, though I encourage you to do that. But the main thing to kind of remember is like, don't give in, don't listen to it. And to do that, what you really want to get clear and good on is identifying and being sure it is coming from the ego. Because if it's coming from the ego, it is a liar. Okay? Again, I'm going to say that again. If it's coming from the ego, I promise you it's a liar. The ego is always leading you to a lower potential for your life. Your higher self, no pun intended here, is always taking you to the highest, greatest potential for your life. So I want to give you 3 ways to identify and know it's the ego. So when you have done this and identified it, and you know for sure it's the ego, you know you're not going to listen to it. You're not going to follow its direction. You're not going to take actions or make choices or decisions based on where it's leading you. And it can be this real battle and struggle at times. But if you get the clarity and you know it's the ego, then I promise you the ego's a liar, and it does not have your best intentions at heart, and it's not leading you to your highest path potential and destiny. And if you can just believe me when I say that truth, then this should be simple for you, because once you've identified it, you know it's a liar, and you know you might not be able to shut the voice up, though I encourage you to try if you're just being the observer of it, but you know you're not taking actions in alignment with where it's leading you. That you know, because that is not leading anywhere good. So here's the 3 ways to identify when it's the ego. The first and most simplest is if it's fear-based. If it is at its root, even if it appears logical, rational, reasonable, but if you can tune in and understand and feel that deep down it is coming from a place of fear, not a place from love, a place of fear, then it's the ego. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, if it's anchored in a limited perspective or limited thinking or lack thinking or perspective or viewpoint, it is the ego. Okay. So, oh, that's not possible because of X, Y, and Z. Oh, you don't have what it takes to do that. That is all ego. Okay. Number 3, if it is telling a story, and usually it's like a story with a lot of details, and it's like the conclusion, a beginning, middle, end, and an outcome or a conclusion that's certain. Okay, when there's a story attached to it, it is also the ego. So I'll recap them for you. If it's fear-based, if it's a limited perspective or limited thinking, and 3, if it's like a story, a real kind of story I'll attach to it, it's ego. And then I say again, if it's the ego, it's a liar. No, this is true. Again, when you're in this kind of battle, when you're really making profound changes in your life, when you're really at critical moments in the soul purpose journey or higher self journey, ego gets louder, it gets more aggressive. And in these moments, you just got to kind of get quiet. And once you can identify for certain it's ego, and I gave you 3 ways to identify it, no matter how convincing it sounds, just know that's the ego. It doesn't have my best interest at heart. I might not be able to completely ignore it, but I'm certainly not taking any action or making a decision based on where it's leading me. I'm not going the direction it's telling me to go. I'm ignoring it when it comes down to actual action, behavior, decisions, choices. Okay. So that's it. If you have any questions about this one, I'd love to hear from you. And if you have any topics you'd like to hear on, then definitely send me a note and let me know, because I'd love to do that as well. Anyway, wishing you a great week ahead. Bye-bye for now.